Hi, everyone. It's great to see your faces. I'm actually going to take myself off of speaker view because I don't like seeing my face so big. So for those of you that do not have your video on, if you're inclined to put your video on, that helps me. So I'm not just talking to names, right? It always helps to have some faces to look at. So thank you for those of you who I can see. All right, so I'm going to introduce Melanie Peck, Rocky Mountain Chapter President. Hi, Melanie.
Hello, everyone. We're excited to have you today. Share some stuff.
Absolutely. And Brian Farley, our Spring Conference Chairperson. Hi, Brian.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. All right, so everyone, I think we all know that 2020 was a year unlike any other. I don't need to say that much more than that, right? It was different for all of us. Rocky Mountain Chapter, we have 2 trade shows and conferences. So we had a lot of experience in 2020 dealing with the word that my chapter knows that I love so much, which is pivot. We did a lot of pivoting, as I'm sure you all did. And so today I just want to discuss some of the ways that we pivoted and just some things to keep in mind that I think are super important for us as leaders, right? That's the key word that I want everyone to remember here is we are leaders. And when we lead by example, things go much more smoothly, in my opinion. So let's begin with a few particulars about what we dealt with, and then I have some tips and tricks, and then some things that I kept in mind as chapter executive director when we were doing that pivoting that I love so much. So to give you a little bit of background, our spring conference was scheduled for March 31st. That was such a great time to have anything scheduled, right? Because it was like right in that moment where, hey, what's happening? Do we need to react? Should we be changing anything? It was that unknown period of time. March 11th came about, and really I sent out communication just saying that, hey, there's something going on here. There's some concern about COVID-19. The health and well-being of our members is of paramount importance, right? And so that was a big thing to start with is our members are important. We value you. We do not put anything above your health and safety. And I think that that's something very important to remember with any communication is you want to make sure that you relay that to your members. So on March 11th, we were planning to move ahead. We said, yes, absolutely. March 31st is just around the corner. We are holding our conference, and we fully expected to be able to hold our conference. We said in communication, hey, any decisions about the program will be based on daily assessments, and we will communicate any updates to you about everything going on. So the main point here is communication is key, right? Even if you don't know something, you need to be honest about it. You need to say, hey, we have no idea what's happening right now. We're doing our best, just like I'm sure all of you are doing, but here's where we're at. And I do believe that because of that communication, that really just kind of pulled everybody in and united us in ways that we probably didn't even realize at the time. So there's the March 11th communication. March 13th, guess what? I sent out a new email and it said, oh, hey, we understand that there's a lot of concern going on over COVID-19. Guess what? We are having to determine a new date. And at that point, it was really hard because, I didn't have any answers. And it was like, hey, we have this huge conference that is our financial powerhouse for the chapter. It's the main event for our business partners. It's the main event for our members to get their education, and yet we don't have any answers. But again, I say to you, communicating that with people is what is so important. And Melanie and Brian, if you want to chime in at any point with, how we communicated or the fact that we communicated even when we didn't know what to communicate, just the fact that we were here, we were operating, we were trying to figure it out. If you have any words on that, you can certainly chime in. Okay, so that communication went out March 13th. I let everyone know that registrations would remain intact and simply transfer to the rescheduled date. Here's something very important. I did not give opportunities for, do you want a refund? Do you want another way to, what I said to people was, any registrations will transfer to the new date, period. And members, if you have any questions, please let me know. What did I do by doing that? I set the tone. I set the tone for, I don't expect to be at my office for the next 2 weeks, refunding all over the place. I expect to figure this out, and I expect for all of you to be patient with me and help me figure this out. And come to the conference whenever we have it, right? It was in the language that I used. It set the tone and the expectations for our members. So I think that that was a huge thing. I remember talking to other chapter executive directors through some of these forums, and everybody was like, oh my God, what if we have to refund? What if we do this? And it was more of, for us at least, hey, this stinks, but this is our financial powerhouse, like I said before, and it's of utmost importance that people hold on to those registrations. We don't know how it's going to look, but we will offer you something because it matters financially to our chapter that we hold something, and we'll figure it out. And having that tone really did, I mean, hey, proof is in the pudding, right? Because we ended up very well, and I'll get all to that in a little bit, but it really did. I mean, I had 2 people contact me asking for registration refunds. That was it, out of all of our membership.
I think, Bridget, a part of that messaging too was, you have invested in us and we're not going to give up on you, right? We're not just going to give up by giving a refund. We're going to invest back and figure out how to be that support system for you throughout this happening, which was a big part of that message as well.
Absolutely, totally. Yes, thank you for that, Melanie. So that was March 13th. March 26th, I finally decided to get a little bit more personal because I felt like it was needed. I don't know if all of you remember the end of March, but it was that moment where it was just like, we all were just holding on, like, what in the heck is happening here, right? And to know that you're not alone in that. I mean, I think that that's something that's so important to convey to your membership, right? We are a community. Above all else, we're a community. And when we act like it, it does wonders. So I just want to share with you real quick the email that I sent out on March 26th, which was personal in nature for sure. Let's see here. Here we go. Nope, not the right. Hold on. Sorry about that. I'm sharing the wrong screen. Let's see. Here we go. I'm just going to share my desktop. And okay. So this is an email that I sent out. And I'm just going to read through it real quick because I do believe that it really made such a difference. So here's an update. We're an industry of fixers. We're good at what we do because when a problem comes up, we figure out the best solution and we're back on track. I think that speaks true to all of us here, right? I don't know about you, but I don't tend to make a big deal of challenges because I'm certain there's always a solution. That's why this update is hard for me and why I've been reluctant to send it. It's an update without an immediate solution. The Hyatt Regency is not prepared to do any rescheduling at this time. I could not have predicted this 2 weeks ago, which is why I was certain we'd have a rescheduled date by now. It has become clear that we will not have a date for some time. Once things settle down, we will have to remain patient as the hotel will be struggling to reschedule all the other events that were to take place, as well as our conference. Frustrating, but understandable. I ask for your patience during this challenging time. We will have a date eventually, and it will be a super successful trade show, likely something that we will all need on many levels. Thank you all for your support and understanding. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm here to be of help and to fix the things that I can. From my home office to yours, be well. So that personal message, I can't tell you the responses that I got from that. I mean, just, I don't even know, I didn't keep track of the amount of members that responded, but it was, thank you so much. I mean, this is just crazy. I will support the chapter 100% no matter what you do. And it was because I was just honest, right? And it was because I said, hey, y'all, like, this stinks. And I wish I could fix it for us. But at this time, I don't have an answer. And I do believe that we will be put in that position again, very likely, to where we may not have all the answers. And I just ask of you to give yourself a little breathing room with that, to not demand of yourself to have all the answers, to not demand of the venues that you're working with to have all the answers, and to remind people that we're all human. Part of why I put in there about the venue and about how they were also struggling, because I want people to remember that it's not just us having this issue, right? Or this challenge. The venue was also trying to figure out, well, geez, you know, it's just, there's multiple trade shows going on. How are we going to reschedule everything? And I really do believe in that reminder to our membership that yes, we're dealing with this, but so are so many other people, venues, you know, companies, and we need to help each other out. If that's the main message that we can give each other, so be it, right? What's wrong with that?
I think part of that, and it's funny, I don't know how many of you were on the call yesterday, the national call about mental health, and it kind of wrapped up with a message that really hit home to everybody. You know, sort of that vulnerability, right? Like, we're all in this together. And so the way that Bridget touched people on a personal level and brought the venue in, like, it reminds people that we're all in this together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so March 26th, so other communications happened. Then we figured, all right, excellent. On April 14th, we determined, yes, we're gonna reschedule it, and it's gonna be November 12th, because by golly, by fall, this thing will be over, right? Right? And no. So we assumed everything would be good. And actually, let's remember back through the summer months and into early fall, it was kind of looking like, all right, they're getting a little bit more back to normal. I mean, I know it's different depending on where you were. I know the East Coast was a little bit stricter with some of their guidelines and orders, but for us at least, it looked like November 12th was a possibility. So November 6th was the date that we determined, nope, November 12th is not happening. So within 6 days, we had to pivot yet again. And I can't tell you, well, actually, I'm going to tell you. I think I was about to lose my mind. And Brian, you can speak to this too. This is your opportunity, because it was like, no, we've gone through so much to get to this place, and we want to be able to give this event, especially at this time, because it was so necessary for our members, right, Brian?
Correct, yeah, and you kind of skipped over, we actually had another pivot point prior to that, was we were going to have to do it in waves because they had changed the variants, meaning we could still run the trade show, but we could only have approximately 175 people for the size of the building that we had. So I put in there our exhibitors and attendees. So what we actually established was a waved or a phased format, meaning we're going to have basically, we just distributed everyone alphabetically into 25%, 25%, 25%, or excuse me, 25%. So there was 4 rounds essentially. So at certain times, these attendees would show up, and that way we could still run the actual face-to-face trade show. Then we're going to do the classes online. And then that was actually the plan until November 6th. So we had already figured out a whole new plan to make this thing work. We actually had some special meetings, a couple special meetings, to actually figure out how the wave system was going to go. We sent out an email to all the attendees how that was going to work and how that was going to be processed. It was perfect. And then, of course, it switched again on November 6th. It was quite disheartening and quite frustrating for us, who had just run a few different meetings to try to figure out a way to solve this problem, which obviously is out of our control.
I can't believe I forgot the wave attendance. Oh my Lord. Yes, that took a lot of planning. I mean, it was, and a lot of communication, right? Because we've never done a waived attendance ever. And so to get our members used to that, it took a lot of communication and a lot of planning, right? So, oh, these people in the A's can't come because they have standing meetings. So then we need to move them here. I mean, it took so much just pivoting. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot that. So thank you, Brian, for sharing that. So November 6th came along. We said, okay, you know what? We have November 12th booked. So November 12th, we're doing virtual office hours. That's how we're doing our trade show. And we designed it so that, every business partner who wanted to participate could have their own Zoom through their own company Zoom account, and they would offer up a prize for, people to come in and check out their virtual office space. We did that because we did not have the capacity nor the knowledge to do breakout rooms and to figure out, well, how do we, put people here and put people there? So we just said, let's not try to overthink this. That's another important thing sometimes when you're planning, right? Is overthinking can get you all sorts of, in all sorts of different lands where you don't want to be. And so we said, you know what? Everybody has a Zoom account by now. Let's let our exhibitors have their own virtual, offices. And then on December 3rd, we're going to offer classes, because December 3rd was the date that we were holding anyway. So it made sense to have virtual classes that day. So we actually did 8 hours of classes. And as an attendee, you've already paid. You choose which classes you want to attend, how many classes you actually, are interested in. And those attendee registrations applied to the virtual office hours as well as the education, the full day of education. So we really made it like, hey, you know what, you've paid, here's your options. We're proud of the options that we've offered, and have a nice day. And it worked out extremely well. Out of that, I only had 5 people ask for refunds. That's it. I mean, I think that speaks volumes about how people felt about it, right? So those were the details of the actual dates of the events, but here are some things that I really want people to keep in mind. Is 2020 was about leadership. Said that before, but I can't, the importance of that, it can't be overstated. So in our role leading a chapter, you have to lead by example. So while I showed compassion, I was determined to lead. Now, this wouldn't have been possible without the support of the board and the committee. And so by working together and being very honest with each other and saying, hey, this is what we're doing. Do you support me 100%? Yes, let's move forward. If they had not supported me 100%, this never would have worked out. Why? Because as well as I do, members will talk to, let's say, hey, a member's going to go talk to Melanie or Brian. If they are not on the same page as I am, they don't express the same thoughts, then everything falls apart. And so without that support, it really would not have transitioned so well. As we know, leaders create or play a key role in creating environment, right? It's all about environment when you're going through something like this. So ultimately, talking honestly about the challenges you're facing will help you manage others' expectations. That's huge in managing others' expectations, right? Because we have to do that. Otherwise, they'll run all over the place. It may be tempting to avoid those tough conversations, but we have to have them in times like this. We have to. We can't shut down. We can't run away from what's going on. We have to be able to address it. And I think that our leadership team did so well in working together in that area, that's what determines success. Teamwork. Can't be stressed enough. So that goes back to, hey, what's the message? Are we all saying the same thing? Because if you've decided to pivot significantly and you want everybody to be on board, your leadership team better be on board with that message. Training your members. This is something that I'm super big on. there should be a system in place to hold people accountable. So if you have reasonable communication, okay, and you're sending this out, and then someone says to you, well, I had no idea, you better have a system in place where you can say, well, yes, you did. I sent out these emails, and I show here that you opened up these emails. Now, while you want to have compassion, you have to hold people accountable. I am huge, and so is our leadership team, about accountability. I think far too often we do not hold ourselves nor others accountable. And so one of the things when you're making these transitions is to remember that, right? You want compassion, but you also want to hold people accountable. And then knowing your membership. So what works for one chapter might not work for another. I mean, it really, it's just the truth. I know I've heard stories of some chapters doing some things, and I know without a doubt that my chapter would not have succeeded doing the same thing. So what might have worked for us may not work for you, but keeping these main points in mind, I think ultimately will give you that strong foundation to make whatever changes you need to change, right? To pivot wherever you need to pivot. Let's see. Tips to help start the conversation. So I wrote these down while I was going through all of this. Begin by talking about your shared goals. Without shared goals, we have nothing. Okay, so talking about those shared goals with your members. So yes, we want to have a trade show. Business partners, you want to have a trade show because of this, and we want it because of this. And we have this shared goal, right? You're creating that relationship, and it reassures everyone that you are working toward the same outcome. Sometimes people can think like, oh, well, they don't care about us because, you know, they're in one membership category or whatever. You want to make sure that none of that talk is going on. And how do you do that? You make sure you share those or you express those shared goals.
So
and then,
Bridget, can I, sorry to interrupt you, can I just jump in? And one of the things, it kind of ties back to not just this conference pivoting, if you will, but those shared goal ideas. And I think that this could be a good thing for people in different membership types. Is 3 years ago, we started some forums. So we have a business partner forum, a manager member forum, a homeowner leader forum. And throughout this whole process, that was one way that people could get on and talk with each other as well as with leadership. So Bridget's there, the chairs are always there, board representation is there to actually have conversations. So that's a really good way to kind of hold these informal type events to understand what the different goals of the different membership types are. And it's worked out really well for us in this whole process of 2020, but also for other needs of the membership.
Thanks for that, Melanie. Yeah, that was definitely instrumental in all of this. So tip 2 is explain the challenge, right? You heard my email, when I read my email, you heard what I was explaining, the different challenges, whether it was personal on a personal level, right? So I created that relationship. And then I explained the challenge from the venue's point of view, as well as just the overall, right? And then 3, propose a solution. So if you're just, I mean, sometimes you don't have a solution, right? But at least if you say, I'm working towards a solution, or explaining how the solution is going to meet those common goals, that's super important, right? You're offering something. And then the 4th step would be to clarify the outcome. So you want to reinforce what you've talked about and then explain the next steps. Like I said before, in a time of a pandemic, you may not know the next steps, but you can say, hey, I can't wait to let you know what is going to be happening next. I'm just as excited as you are to figure this out, right? It's saying something, at least it's communicating, right? So those were just some of the tips that I put together while we were working through all of this. Now, I mean, I'd really like to open it up for conversation. Anybody have any awesome questions?
Thanks, and feel free to go ahead and unmute yourselves for any questions that you may have.
I think the event we didn't hold with the waves is a really good solution that other chapters can use, because I think that as we come up into 2021, I do feel like at least here in Colorado, we're opening up a little bit more and a little bit more. And so I don't know if Bridget, I don't know if you have any kind of documentation that we had sent out in that to say, here's your wave. I know that it was really well received by membership, and I, for one, I'm the director of operations for a management company, and was really excited. I mean, this is a thing that we love. Our spring conference is what we love to bring our entire office to, and to still be able to get out was exciting to us, even though it didn't end up happening, even if we were doing it in waves, because people are really craving that one-on-one. So I don't know if you have anybody has any questions about how that was facilitated, even though it didn't actually happen, but how we plan on facilitating that.
And Bridget, if you have anything with that, if you want to send it to me, I can always add it to the toolkit.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll try to find that while we're talking. You know, one of the things about the WAVE attendance was we heard from other business partners who had participated in virtual trade shows. And you guys, let's face it, I mean, virtual trade shows, they're not getting that person-to-person contact. And that truly is where most of our business partners make their connections, is through that experience. And so knowing that, you know, our business partners wanted, I mean, they just wanted to meet in person, and our attendees likewise really wanted to get out of the office. We felt like we were, you know, addressing that need while keeping safe and following all the mandates, and, you know, really making the conference, although very different, accessible on a personal level. And the WAVE attendance really was received well. And it was only, I mean, it was significantly different because it was a 2-hour time period for each wave to come in. Whereas before, they were going to be there, you know, 8 hours during the day, essentially. And so 2 hours, though, to our members was heaven. It was like, oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you for offering something in some way to meet our needs, right? And that is what we do. We meet our members' needs.
So I think, Bridget, there was something in the chat that Brian had answered, kind of asking about, can you talk a little bit about how we actually didn't charge? We rolled over again, no refunds, but so we provided this virtual office hours as a benefit to our membership. And how financially we were able to have that roll forward because of our planning from the past 5 to 6 years, planning for a potential a financial hit, right? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so attendee registrations were not refunded. We offered solutions, and we provided what we felt met the needs of what we were offering. So attendee registration stayed the same, but obviously for our business partners, a virtual office was not the same experience. And so we decided, in good faith and in good relationship building, to fully transfer all sponsorships and all exhibit fees to 2021. Now it was a significant amount of money, but we were able to, you know, first of all, we didn't have a lot of our expenses in 2020 did not happen, right? So we were able to still hold events and still keep registrations because we offered so many virtual options. And yet we didn't have the same expenses that we would have had if we had held them in person. And so what we saw was this kind of, we kept saving money as we were going throughout the year. And I repeat, because we did not cancel things, we just found new ways of providing them. And so because of no cancellations, we weren't refunding sponsorships. There were a few times where the sponsorship significantly changed and I adjusted the rate. And that was okay. We still didn't have to refund the entire amount, right? And so we just, as we went through the year, and I would challenge you as you're going through this year, it's, you know, hey, find the different ways of doing things if you have to, but don't necessarily give up, right? It's really easy to say, well, we can't do it this way, so we're just not going to do it. That's easy in all reality to just to give up. And so like I said, I would challenge everyone to find that solution so that you're not refunding all over the place and you're able to keep some of that money while not spending as much as you had planned. Wow, I see a lot of questions there.
Yeah, so I'll answer some of these because maybe we didn't discuss this super clearly yet because we were kind of going through the how to handle this, right? But for the actual, what happened was, okay, so the actual phased trade show, meaning we were going to have 25% of attendees show up at 8 till 11, and then they leave, and then 25% come at another block, and then 25% come another time. That way we would hit our variance that the state allowed us to have. So that was the plan. I was looking through my notes. We had planned that in September. Then by November 6th, then we went under like stricter rules, meaning no more public events at any time, November 6th. But our trade show was planned for November 12th, right? So we had 6 days to figure out what to do. So what we did on the fly, we figured out, again, with Bridget's lead, we were going to do virtual office hours on the 12th. However, we had already planned to have our classes. We had approximately, I think we had 27 classes scheduled. So then our plan was we were already going to have that at a separate time anyways. That was going to be in December. So the way that we operated then was on November 12th, we had already had this date on our calendars. So because everyone's already on their calendars, we're just going to open it up to this office hours. And so Bridget emailed us all, the business partners or presenters, asking us if we would like to do it, like to be involved. Do you want to give out a prize to incentivize people to come to your office hours during that day? What you're going to do is give me your link. I'll then distribute this link to everybody who has signed up to the event. And then keep your Zoom open all day. So when someone wants to log in and click on you and say, hey, how's it going? Tell me about yourself, whatever. That way it just be a revolving door. And you could set your own hours between 9 till 3. I think that's what I did, right? So I just kept my Zoom open, was just doing work. If someone clicked in, it would alert me. I would pop over and say, hey, how's it going? Nice to see you. And we just chat. So that was kind of the way, that's how the logistics went. The classes were a separate day, a separate thing. And that was another sort of a lot of admin work on the back end that we all did together, of making sure that everybody who was presenting or giving the classes, for example, had their times set aside, because those were going very quickly. If we had 27 classes, we had multiple classes going on at a certain time. And so we also had to figure that out as well. So that's kind of the logistical side of it from a lot of the questions. I think they were talking about that in the chat.
And with like sponsorships, we just out of good relationship building again, we said, all right, you know what? The presenting sponsors for our conference, everything rolls over, but for 2020, you get to host a Zoom for the education portion, the Zoom education. So they were then in charge, not me as the chapter, because there was no way I could do it with my one Zoom account, right? So instead I said, all right, so presenting sponsors, you will be hosts of the education classes. You will introduce the speakers and say, hey, give your company information. And so they loved it, because people came into their Zoom room, or not Zoom rooms, but their Zoom account, and they hosted essentially the room, and then the presenters and they, you know, did their thing, right, as planned normally, as they would have in person. And so it was really just trying to find, like, where's the opportunity here? Is there an opportunity, like, under this? Can I find it, and can I put someone there? And we did that really well. With, I saw someone say, well, how many people or exhibitors actually did the virtual office hours? So 50% essentially chose to do the virtual office hours. Now, I will say that after they heard from people who did the virtual office hours, the ones that didn't do it, I would say half of those people were disappointed that they didn't do it, because there was such positive feedback from the people who talked to me afterwards, saying, my gosh, like, I was actually able to hold a conversation where I would never be able to do that in person at a trade show. Like, really, I had 2 people in my room at one point, and we had such great connection. Never would have happened before. Was it perfect? No, but at least it offered something, right? Let's see.
I think one of the other things that we did throughout the year for this particular event and other events too, is we really encouraged our leadership, meaning our board and our committees, to have personal connections with people, to reach out and talk about the conference, talk about other events that we were holding throughout the year, and just have a personal conversation on the plan or how it was going or whatever. And people, again, are really wanting that personal connection. So rather than just getting an email, to hear from us each individually, personally. And I think that that went a long way as well.
I saw that, so for those of you who hosted like large virtual conferences, this was not what we did. I think hopefully that's been made clear. We did something very informal, very on the fly. And I guess the point of all that is, you know, sometimes that's just what you have to do, right? You may not have like all the tools in front of you, but you're all capable and knowledgeable people who are able to do this, right? And I feel like sometimes we lose our confidence with things because of all the unknowns. And I just want to express to all of you that you're in the positions you're in because you are capable, right? And so don't forget that as we're in 2021, that we can figure this out through you know, just talking to our support team, through your board, through the committee, or each other. We are capable of figuring this out. There's always a solution. Someone said, what was the average attendance for each company during their office hours? So I would say it really depended on the company. So I had some companies who saw 2 people the whole day. And it was just, you know, actually, one of the things that made a huge difference was the prize that they were giving. I hate to say that, but it's true. If someone was offering a $10 Target gift card, whereas another company was offering a $100 Target gift card, chances are people were going to go into the room with the 100 more. I mean, and that's just part of, hey, companies, you have accountability here, right? If you want people to go into your room, make it so that they want to go into your room. The chapter cannot do everything for you. I mean, I know it's crazy, right? But we have to hold our business partners accountable too. And by the way, we did not charge business partners to have this experience. It was really just a, hey, we're here for you. We're offering you something, keeping in mind that we are rolling everything over. This is just like a one on us, right? Like, I hope you use this opportunity. And that's why, you know, some people didn't. Let's see.
Hey, Bridget, did you only allow those who had signed up to be an exhibitor at your trade show to do it, or did you open it up to other members? Okay.
I was very strict about that, and attendees as well. So that was something that I didn't really realize until the time, but it was like, oh my gosh, if people start sharing the links to the virtual office hours, because I caught wind of a lot of people being super excited, but they never paid for the attendee registration rate. That was something that I had a challenge with, right? And so it came down to me saying, hey, everyone, if you're receiving a link for virtual office hours, that means that you are helping support our chapter by paying the registration fee. please do not share out the link. I mean, I really put in that kind of personal connection that like, hey, we are a nonprofit organization and we rely on people's honesty to keep afloat. So that was different, but yeah, I was strict about that.
And you touched a little on this when you said the prizes made a difference, but someone asked, have you heard back from any of the business partners on what separated the successful experiences from the not so successful ones? So is there anything else besides the, giveaways that drew them to those rooms, or, had caused them to have a successful experience?
Yes. So I would say that, as we know, even in-person trade shows, some people just have better rapport. I mean, it's the truth. And so I was checking in. So I had links to all of the virtual offices, and I would check in and I'd go into a room and I would see the conversation just flat. And it was because they did not have someone engaging, just like at a trade show. If you don't have someone engaging behind that table, pulling people in, it's not going to work. And so same thing with these virtual offices. It was, do you have someone engaging? Do you have an incentive to get there? And is your message strong? So one of the things that I put together to attendees was like a spreadsheet that said, company name, office hours, what they were giving away, and then their primary message. And some had used it as, hey, we're gonna put a pitch in here. Like right now, we're gonna make it interesting so that people want to come in. It was all in how the business partners staff handled the opportunity. Let's see. I don't know if I've seen all the questions. If I've missed,
I think you've covered pretty much all the questions, and Brian's been diligent about responding to them in there as well.
I do have kind of a question that's built off of Brian's. He had mentioned that some of the business partners did their own marketing to the attendees. Did you provide the pre-attendee list to the business partners?
I did, yeah.
And how far ahead of time did you do that for them to be able to start to market? I know it was such a short period of time, so.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact timing. It was short period of time. But that was one of the things that we actually, so we had a meeting with anyone interested to go over. I forget how many meetings we actually had in 2020. My God. We had like this rehearsal of virtual office hours. And so, hey, if you're interested, come and join me. We'll talk about it. We'll figure some things out together. And one of the things that we found through this little rehearsal was people wanted those emails. And usually I'm really guarded with the emails. So it was something different for me, but it was, you know what, like, yes, we should be able to do this for anybody who wants to participate. And the caveat was that they had to provide me with the virtual office link first. So I knew that they had already set up, that they were ready to go. And so once I received their link, I sent them the information, and some of them used it well and some of them did not. It goes back to that, staff accountability.
Great. I don't see any other questions. Anybody who's on the line, do you want to unmute? Does anybody have any other questions or would like to share an experience that you might have had?
Hey, Kelly.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. It's Crystal. Nice to see you all. First, I want to thank Bridget and Melanie and Brian for sharing your experience. Definitely a lot of really great tips and messaging related to changing events. The one thing that, and Melanie did touch on this, is, we're all very hopeful that things will be improving in the coming months, but I think it's super important that we have a plan B and a plan C, et cetera, if necessary. So I really encourage you, and I know it's so much extra work and it's daunting and frustrating at times, but I really encourage you to take some of the tips that that the Rocky Mountain chapter team shared to kind of plan out the what ifs going forward, so that we can continue to deliver that member value to our members.
And speaking as a business partner, you know, some of your questions too are asking kind of what is the chapter doing to help out in the situation. As a business partner, the CAI Rocky Mountain chapter is a platform for me to be able to utilize. It's not going to grow my business for me. And so I think that's also something that you should really encourage everybody, all your members, all your business partners, that CAI is a platform. So even though virtual office hours weren't the most spectacular thing, it was a platform to get more people involved to come and say hi to me at that time when I probably wouldn't have said hi to them. So to kind of have that mindset as well, as you're going to provide this platform for people to be able to interact and exchange business cards or exchange bids, whatever it is. And so you're just going to be able to provide that. Other than that, there's no other pressure for you to fulfill any other role. It's not your job to get somebody business or to make connections for them. You're just providing the opportunity for that to occur. And I think with that mindset, then you're going to have a little bit more freedom to be creative with the different options that you can think of. Because again, that's something that we've been talking about a lot, is what if it actually gets worse in 6 months? What if, right? We can't control those what ifs. All we can control is what we know today. So we have to make those decisions based on what we know today and how we can serve our members the best we can with what we know today. And it's super hard because I think human nature wants to be in control of everything, but we've obviously learned, we don't have that ability at all. So just as an encouragement to you all too, just, you shouldn't feel that pressure to solve everyone's problems.
We also had a successful mountain conference, as Bridget had mentioned. We have 2 conferences per year, and that one was able to be held because it was kind of in that interim time frame. I think we held it the end of August. And one of I don't know if you want to talk about it, Bridget. And the venue played a big role in it. But our class sizes had to be much smaller, and it was our annual meeting as well. Or no, it wasn't our annual meeting. Sorry, that's held at our yes, it was our annual meeting. Like, everything blends together, right? But the way that the venue was able to facilitate holding the in-class and the in-person class, and then anybody else in attendance could log in and be virtually in that class. That was super successful because I went into a couple of classes in person myself, and then it was interesting when I walked around, seeing everybody on their laptop spread throughout the venue, watching the class as well. And that turned out pretty successful.
Yes, we're so lucky to have 2 major conferences in a year. Yeah, the one, so we hold a mountain conference, like Melanie was saying, in Vail. And, that one we said, okay, here's how we have to lay out the floor plan for the exhibitors. It's a very small informal conference, so we only have about 50 exhibitors. So it is small. And this is one of the reasons why we were able to hold it. But, originally we usually have like a big, plated lunch in the same room as exhibitors, and we had to completely toss that out the window, put the exhibitors in the huge room, spacing them out according to mandates. We had to forego any plated meals. We said it's grab and go. Nice enough weather in Vail in the mountains in September, so lucky us. People were able to grab lunch and go outside and picnic or go wherever they felt like going to eat. And then with the classes, we said, all right, well, we're eliminating, I think it was 50%, or we're eliminating how many classes? 6 classes. We're only holding 3, and they will be all in one ballroom with everyone spaced out. What would normally hold 200 people, we had hold, I believe it was 50.
60. Yeah,
60, yeah. So, and then anybody, once we reach that number, sorry, here's the link to join via Zoom. We kept, so essentially we made all the money we were planning on making, and we spent so much less. I can't remember the exact number, but more than 50% less than what we had planned on spending. So we were able to make a huge profit off of that conference, and still providing what we intended to provide, just a little different, right? And so that was really kind of our theme for the year, is let's give people what they want, but we're going to have to do it in a modified way and safely, and keeping all these things in mind. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Melanie, because that was, I mean, it was a great conference, actually. In fact, we might make changes to our conference moving forward just based off of what we learned from 2020, and what we found was possible. I mean, the whole idea of one big room, and then virtual options for other people were able to actually watch the classes in their hotel rooms via the circuit, whatever it's called, from the hotel. So it was super interesting, super valuable, and something that we plan on continuing into the future.
Great, thank you. I don't see any other questions. If you do, please feel free to unmute. Otherwise, thank you, Bridget, Brian, Melanie, for coming today. I think this was really helpful. We will be posting any of the resources in the toolkit. If you have anything too that you have, that your chapters have done, or communications that you've sent out that you'd like to share with others, about either pivoting your trade show, holding anything virtual, please feel free to send it to one of the members of the chapter relations team, and we'll get it into the toolkit as well. Melanie also said to feel free to reach out to any of them with any questions that you might have. And if you find yourself in the situation, feel free to, again, reach out to their team, and good luck in 2021. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
If you have any questions, please contact a member of the chapter relations team or email chapterlearning@caionline.org.